you want to hear.
Well, it's not about what we want to hear, but then there are those who will be wondering why it took this while. I mean, for a long time, since the 8th Assembly came in, you've been going around the constitutional review, constitutional amendment, and this is just a few months or thereabout to the next election. So in the face of all the pressing things that are there that needed to be looked at, I mean, the tertiary institutions are more or less like, they're not working anymore because the academic staff unions of both the universities and the polytechnics are on strikes. There are other things that are pressing. The petroleum industry reform bills are also lying down there that needed to be looked at. Preparations to even receive the budget, 2019 budget, next week, Wednesday, is also there. And you think this is about the best time to bring this up?
Thank you. This is very, very timeless. This is very timelessly put together. When are we supposed to do it? We have a system that has not succeeded in solving the problems of Nigeria and Nigerians. Now, you have made reference to problems that we're having in this country. Some of these problems are there because of the presidential system of government that we are practicing. Assuming, for instance, that the president is a member of parliament, most of these problems or negotiations that are going on between the executive arm of government, and the ASU, for instance, the prime minister, who is a member of parliament, would have been in, what would I say, constitutional engagement with the National Assembly in attending to the problems that the country is facing. These people are on strike, these people are on strike. To what extent has the National Assembly, in the past, you are aware, involved and invited these warring associations to a round table? And what do we achieve? At the end of the day, the National Assembly listens to them, makes recommendations to the executive. Are these recommendations put into practice? To what extent has the executive, in all interventions of the National Assembly, treated the resolutions of the National Assembly with dignified respect? If it were in a parliamentary system where the Prime Minister is a member of Parliament, he will be part of the decisions and resolutions of Parliament, and therefore, when these issues that you have enumerated are there, then, of course, being a part of Parliament that had taken decision and resolved on how these issues will be treated, I think that would have been better for us, and that would have solved most of the problems that we are having. Here, National Assembly meets, National Assembly deliberates, we have motions, we have resolutions. How many resolutions of the National Assembly have been executed? These are representatives of the people. These are the people who know the pulse of the people, and these are people who, having resolved that these are ways of solving problems in the country, to what extent has Mr. President or the executive arm of government in a presidential system adhered to, listened to, implemented, or executed the resolutions of the National Assembly?
Okay,
it wouldn't happen so.
So this bill is born out of... Would it be right then to say, as some people are thinking, that this bill is born out of spite? The fact that the executive doesn't seem to be paying attention to the legislature as you say they're supposed to?
Not at all. Not at all. You know, in a parliamentary system, I need not remind you that in a parliamentary system, legislation and the implementation and execution of laws are easier than in a presidential system of government. Let me give you an example. Recently, you have followed events of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. For the third time, Mr. President has rejected assent. He has withdrawn assent to the Electoral Act. Assuming Mr. President was in Parliament, as in a parliamentary system of government, and the Electoral Act, which you know for all intents and purposes is to strengthen our democracy, would Mr. President have vetoed the Electoral Act? I'm asking you.
Honorable Onyewefe, he wouldn't have vetoed it because that wouldn't be the procedure under a parliamentary system. But those who are listening to you now will also recollect that Nigeria had been under a parliamentary system. In fact, the first system of government Nigeria as a country practiced was the parliamentary system of government. And it collapsed. So maybe there will be those listening to you now.
How did you?
There are those who are listening to you now who would ask the question, is our problem the system of government or its operators? Because we have practiced parliamentary system of government before. We did between 1957 and 1966. And it collapsed, you know, after leading to in the aftermath of the first coup, the first military coup in January of 66. And then it was decided in 78, 79 to practice the presidential system of government, which we have practiced ever since then through the Second, Third, and now the Fourth Republic. So the question to ask you is that in introducing this, you have enumerated, you know, of course, the issue of executive, legislative cordiality and working together on passage of good laws for governance. You've used the example of withhold of accent and all of that. Others who are listening to you will also point out the issue of cost, because then there will be a sort of merger between the executive and the legislative functions of government. But the question, the key question will still be, is our problem, do you think, the system that we're operating or the operators?
Now, your question is whether it is the system we're operating or the operators. The answer is very simple. When you are practicing a democracy, definitely the Constitution is the ground norm. Whether the operator wants to do it or follow the Constitution to the letter or not, yet the Constitution supersedes every other thing. Now, the system we are operating, let me give you an example. You made reference to Nigeria having been operative through a parliamentary system from 1957 to 1966. And you made reference and used the word collapsed or system failed. Remember, it was the military that took over power from the elected government parliamentary system in 1966. Now the question is, who imposed presidential system on Nigerians? Look at the Little Constitution that gave Nigeria the parliamentary system. Now, the military took over, and the military brought the presidential system. The military, even the constitution we're operating today is an event or a document of the military. Now, let's take it this way. What is the cost of governance today vis-a-vis a parliamentary system? You made reference to that.
I made reference to
How
that.
many aides
I made reference to that,
Mr.
Honorable Yeofe. I made reference to that because I knew it would be, it's already in the papers. It was reported that one of the considerations was the issue of cost, that because the merging of executive and legislative functions will entail reduction of cost. And instead of having two chambers of the National Assembly, you will have one.
I am coming to an area where you said whether it is the operators.
Yes.
Let me tell you, if it were in a parliamentary system, look at what is happening in the UK. The Prime Minister just survived a no-confidence vote. This means that in a parliamentary system, the Prime Minister considers what the feelings of Parliament is like in every decision, in every step, in every policy of government, because he's a member of Parliament, and he's afraid that by a simple majority, just very simple majority, by one vote in the majority and a vote of confidence of a no confidence vote is passed, the Prime Minister is gone. Consider that vis-a-vis the situation where we are today, where, for instance, Mr. President or the executive arm of government can decide to go ahead, do certain things. What will the National Assembly do? At least to remove a president in a presidential system of government, you need two-third majority. How do you get two-third? How many countries have ever succeeded in such? Look at the Australian example. From 2007 till we are talking, which prime minister in Australia has completed term of office? Because Parliament, who are representatives of the people, can decide by simple majority to say, no, you are getting it wrong, you have got to go.
Honorable, I'm going to have to put you, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put you on pause. I'm going to have to put you on pause as part of our discussion, because we're going to get some other perspectives to this very interesting bill that has been introduced into the House of Reps. But I'm going to put you on pause so that I can introduce our other guests at this point.